The forest swallowed us whole, its shadows clawing at the edges of our flashlight beams. I was 25, terrified, and hopelessly in love with my best friend, Javier, who was laughing like the world wasn't about to unravel. Somewhere in the Oregon wilderness, we'd lost the trail, and the weight of what I hadn't told him pressed harder than the cold biting my skin. My name's Khalil, and I'd known Javier since we were kids in Oakland, back when we'd race bikes down cracked sidewalks and dream of lives bigger than our neighborhood. He was always the bold one, fearless, charming, with a smile that could talk anyone into anything. At 26, he was still that guy, a construction worker with calloused hands, dark eyes that sparkled with mischief, and a girlfriend back in Portland who adored him. Me? I was the quiet one, the graphic designer who overthought everything, especially the way my heart raced when he slung an arm around my shoulders. I'd come out to him 3 years ago and he'd hugged me, said, "You're still you, man," and never brought it up again. That was Javier, loyal but oblivious. We'd planned this hiking trip for months, a chance to escape the city and reconnect. The Siuslaw National Forest promised rugged trails and starry skies. But now, as dusk bled into night, we were lost. My backpack felt heavier with every step, and Javier's jokes weren't landing anymore. "We're fine, Khalil," he said, his voice steady but his eyes scanning the trees. "We'll find the path." I wanted to believe him, but the forest was a maze, and my secret was a heavier burden than our gear. Hours earlier, we'd been laughing, sharing a thermos of coffee as we trekked past moss-covered rocks and streams that glittered like glass. Javier had been telling me about his girlfriend, Marisol, and their plans to move in together. Each word stung, a reminder of the line I could never cross. I nodded, smiled, kept my feelings locked away. But then we missed a trail marker, and the map on my phone was useless without signal. Now, as the temperature dropped, Javier stopped walking and turned to me, his breath visible in the chilly air. "We need to set up camp," he said. "No point wandering in the dark." We found a small clearing, and I busied myself with the tent while Javier gathered wood. My hands shook, not just from the cold, but from the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. It was a look I'd seen before, fleeting, unreadable, and it twisted something deep inside me. By the time the fire crackled, we were sitting on a log, sharing a protein bar and silence. The stars were hidden by clouds, and the forest felt alive, whispering secrets I wasn't ready to hear. "Khalil," Javier said, breaking the quiet. His voice was softer than usual, almost careful. "You okay? You've been off." I froze, my heart hammering. Did he know? Had I let something slip? I forced a laugh, brushing it off. "Just not a fan of being lost, man." He didn't push, but his gaze lingered, and I wondered if he saw through me. The fire popped, and I stared into it, willing my feelings to burn away. But they didn't. They never did. Morning brought no clarity, only fog that clung to the trees like a ghost. We packed up, determined to find the trail, but the forest seemed to shift around us, every path a dead end. Javier's confidence wavered, though he hid it behind a stream of stories. His dad's old fishing trips, the time he snuck into a concert in Seattle. I listened, grateful for the distraction, but my mind kept circling back to last night. The way his hand had brushed mine as he passed me the protein bar. The way he'd looked at me, like he was searching for something. By noon, we found a stream and followed it, hoping it led somewhere. My boots were soaked, and my thoughts were a mess. I'd spent years hiding how I felt, convincing myself it was enough to just be his friend. But out here, with no one else around, the truth felt louder, impossible to ignore. Javier stopped to refill our water bottles, and I watched him crouch by the stream, his movements sure and steady. "You ever think about what you'd do if you could start over?" he asked suddenly, not looking at me. The question caught me off guard. "Like, new life, new city?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. He shook his head, standing up, water dripping from his hands. "Nah, like new you. Different choices." His eyes met mine, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. Was he talking about us? Or was I reading too much into it? "I like who I am," I said finally, though it wasn't entirely true. "What about you?" He shrugged, looking away. "Sometimes I wonder." We kept moving, the conversation hanging between us like the mist. By late afternoon, we stumbled onto a trail marker, and relief flooded me, until Javier tripped on a root and twisted his ankle. He cursed, sitting heavily on the ground, and I knelt beside him, my hands hovering, unsure. "I'm fine," he said through gritted teeth. But he wasn't. I helped him up, his arm around my shoulders, and we limped to a flat spot to rest. The closeness was torture, his warmth seeping through my jacket, his breath close to my ear. I focused on the trail, on keeping us moving, but my heart was a traitor, pounding with every step. That night, we set up camp again, and Javier's ankle was swollen, forcing us to stay put. I built the fire while he watched, his usual energy dimmed. "You don't have to take care of me, you know," he said, his voice low. I didn't look at him, afraid of what I'd see. "You do the same," I muttered, tossing a stick into the flames. He didn't reply, but the silence was heavy, charged with something I couldn't name. I wanted to tell him everything. How I'd loved him for years. How it hurt to be so close and so far. But I couldn't. 2 days in, and we were still lost, Javier's ankle slowing us down. The forest was relentless, its beauty now a cruel taunt. We rationed our food, sharing granola bars and dried fruit, but hunger sharpened our edges. Javier was quieter, his jokes replaced by attention I didn't understand. I caught him staring at me more often, his dark eyes unreadable, and it made my skin prickle with hope and fear. On the third morning, we found a ranger station, but it was abandoned, the windows dark, the door locked. Despair clawed at me, but Javier grabbed my hand, his grip firm. "We're getting out of this, Khalil. Together." His touch burned, and I pulled away, muttering something about checking the map. He didn't call me out, but the hurt in his eyes was unmistakable. I hated myself for it. That afternoon we argued, our first real fight in years. I wanted to backtrack, he wanted to push forward. "You're not listening," I snapped, frustration boiling over. "You always think you know best." He stared at me, shocked, then fired back. "And you're always holding back. What's going on with you?" The words stung too close to the truth. I turned away, my chest tight, and we walked in silence for hours. By nightfall, we found a clearing near a cliff, the view opening to a sea of trees under a star-strewn sky. We set up camp, and Javier's mood softened. He started talking about his dreams, opening a small carpentry shop, building things with his hands. "What about you?" he asked. I hesitated, then said, "I want to live honestly. No more hiding." My voice cracked, and he looked at me, really looked, like he was seeing me for the first time. "Hiding what?" he asked softly. I couldn't answer. Not yet. The fire crackled, and we sat closer than we needed to, our shoulders almost touching. "You're my best friend," he said suddenly, his voice raw. "I don't say it enough, but you mean everything to me." My throat closed up, and I nodded, unable to speak. The stars above us felt like witnesses, and for the first time, I let myself hope that maybe, just maybe, he felt something too. The fourth day was a blur of exhaustion and unspoken words. Javier's ankle was better, but the tension between us was thicker than the fog. We found the main trail again, a small victory, but it didn't erase the questions piling up in my head. Did he know how I felt? Was he pulling away? Every glance, every brush of his hand, felt like a clue I was too scared to decode. We stopped to rest by a lake, the water so clear it mirrored the sky. Javier skipped stones, his movements graceful despite the limp. "You ever feel like you're running from something?" he asked, not looking at me. My heart stopped. "All the time," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. He turned, his eyes searching mine, and for a moment, I thought he'd say it, whatever it was, but he just nodded and tossed another stone. That night, the cold was brutal, and we shared the tent to stay warm. Lying side by side, our sleeping bags touching, I felt his breath on my neck, steady and close. I couldn't sleep, my mind racing with what-ifs. "Khalil," he whispered, and I turned, our faces inches apart in the dark. "I've been thinking about us." My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. "What about us?" I asked, my voice shaking. He didn't answer right away, but his hand found mine, and he held it, his thumb tracing slow circles. It was the most intimate moment of my life, and it terrified me. The next morning he was quieter, but his touches lingered. A hand on my back, a brush of his shoulder. We were close to the trailhead now, civilization creeping closer, and I felt time slipping away. I wanted to freeze this moment, to stay in the woods where the rules of the world didn't apply. But reality was waiting, and with it, Marisol, his girlfriend, and the life he'd built without me. On the fifth day, we saw the trailhead in the distance, a wooden sign marking the end of our ordeal. Relief mixed with dread as we approached. I didn't want this to end. Not the hike, not the closeness, not the possibility of us. Javier was limping less, his smile back, but it didn't reach his eyes. I knew he felt it too, the weight of what we hadn't said. We stopped at the edge of the forest, the city visible in the distance. "Khalil," he said, his voice low, "I need to tell you something." My heart leapt, but before he could continue, a ranger's truck pulled up, and we were swept into explanations and paperwork. The moment was gone, and I cursed the interruption. Back in Portland, we sat in his apartment, the city noise a stark contrast to the forest's quiet. Marisol was at work, and it was just us, a pizza box between us. "What were you going to say?" I asked, unable to wait any longer. He looked at me, his eyes full of something I couldn't name. Fear, maybe, or hope. "I'm not as straight as I thought," he said finally, the words heavy with truth. "Out there, with you I felt something. I don't know what it means, but I can't ignore it." I stared at him, my heart in my throat. "I've loved you for years," I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. His eyes widened, and then he laughed, a soft, nervous sound. "Why didn't you say anything?" he asked. I shrugged, tears prickling. "I was scared you'd run." He didn't run. He reached for my hand, and we sat there, the world shifting around us. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. There was Marisol, his confusion, my fear, but it was a beginning. The woods had changed us, stripped away the lies we told ourselves. We didn't have all the answers, but we had each other, and that was enough. For now, it was everything.